This is, I think, growing to be an absolutely vital conversation in the times that we are in. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our session chair to take the panel forward. Good morning, ma'am.
Very good morning to everyone. Kalai Vanakkam to everybody who is assembled here, particularly to the students who are here. As you've heard during the first session, during the quiz session also, we all have realized that climate change is something that, it's become common, it's become day-to-day conversation. So here is a session which is particularly focused on agriculture and animal husbandry, so to say. So what we're going to be looking at is particularly the fact that we know climate change is no longer a distant challenge, but it's today's reality that we are grappling with. Unpredictable monsoons, heat waves, shifting weather patterns, disease patterns are testing the resilience of agricultural systems and the livestock-dependent communities. These changes demand urgent and innovative responses. The recent budget that came in just a few days back emphasizes this by announcing specific initiatives around agriculture. It is called the National Mission on High-Yielding Seeds, the Atmanirbharta and Pulses program, and there's also the Prime Minister's Dandanya Krishi Yojana that aims to enhance agricultural productivity and promote sustainable farming. Now, we gathered here today to explore some of the most pressing challenges that we are faced with and also look at opportunities, some of the transformative opportunities that are emerging because of the way the science is evolving, the research that is going into all of these. And I'm fortunate to have with me very distinguished speakers who've been working in this field for many decades, and they're going to bring their expertise, their knowledge into this forum. First, among the different sessions, different talks that we have, we're going to be delving into the hybrid agriculture intelligence for climate resilience, where Dr. V. Geeta Lakshmi, the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, she's a distinguished expert in agriculture sciences with extensive contribution to research, education, and extension services. She brings her experience of working on sustainable farming practices, as well as promoting food security, sustainability, and the advancement of agricultural research and development in India. She will discuss how cutting-edge technologies and data-driven approaches can help or empower farmers to adapt to the unpredictable weather patterns and optimize agricultural productivity. Next in the session, we have Dr. N. Paranivel, who is the Director of the Center for Animal Health Studies at the Tamil Nadu Veterinary and Agricultural Sciences University, Animal Sciences University, coming in as the distinguished expert in animal health, zoonotic diseases, and veterinary research. His contributions have significantly enhanced animal welfare, disease management, and also helped develop sustainable strategies for controlling animal public health safety and also improving food security. He brings to us his vast experience and knowledge of India's animal health sector and the importance of looking at disease surveillance for livestock in the face of climate change. You will hear from him that there are new kind of diseases, more incidences that are occurring, and that's why we need to be looking at surveillance in a very different manner. The third topic that's going to be discussed during this particular session focuses on the development and deployment of climate-resilient crop varieties. So here, we have from across the borders from Philippines, Dr. Jawhar Ali, who is the principal scientist and head of the Hybrid Rice Development Consortium at the International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. He's a leading expert in rice breeding and genetics, and he focuses on enhancing hybrid rice production to improve yield, resilience, and sustainability, developing high-yielding rice varieties that support global food security. He brings to us the remarkable progress being made in breeding crops that can withstand extreme weather conditions. It was very interesting that we were having a conversation just before we walked into this session, And he was talking about some varieties that are being developed which can withstand salinity, flooding, drought, and a whole lot of other parameters. Now, all of these have occurred in different places in the past. But then moving forward, you will actually see these incidences in the same place, but during different seasons. That is the challenge of climate change. So crop varieties like these become very, very important in that particular context. Finally, we will explore the carbon sequestration potential of Indian soils. Now, soil is like the bedrock for any agricultural system. It needs to be healthy, and there is no way you can have a good crop if you don't have healthy soils, and carbon is one of the clear indicators of that. So we have Dr. Naresh Kumar, who is the head of the Environment Division at the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Pusa, New Delhi, joining us to talk about this. His research focuses on environmental impact assessments, climate change, and sustainable agricultural practices. He works on improving soil health, water management, and eco-friendly farming techniques to enhance agricultural resilience. His talk will shed light on how soil management practices can play a very pivotal role in not necessarily helping improve agricultural productivity, but also in mitigating climate change, because soil is one of the largest carbon pools when you talk about climate change itself. So storing carbon while you always also enhance soil health and agricultural productivity, that's the theme of the talk that Dr. Naresh Kumar brings to the table. So without much further ado, let's begin. And thank you for being a great audience, and we hope to continue this interaction. So I would request my speakers, we start with Dr. Geeta Lakshmi, to take about 10 to 12 minutes for their presentation, and then we will wrap up all the presentations, and then towards the end, we will have a round of question and answer, an interactive session for about 10 to 15 minutes. So over to you, Dr. Geeta Lakshmi.
Warm good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure for me to stand before you to talk a very important subject, agricultural intelligence for climate resilience. My special thanks to the Secretary and all the other dignitaries here for giving me a great opportunity. You know, UN has come out with 17 different sustainable development goals. I can connect all the 17 goals for the agriculture sector, especially the zero hunger, which is very, very important, especially in the event of growing population. Again, climate action, responsible consumption. If you name any sustainable development goal, it is directly connected to agriculture, especially water. We are the people who are consuming lots and lots of water. And at this event, the climate change is giving lots and lots of threat. So it is very pertinent that this topic is being discussed today in this. So my first slide is like crop yield growth. If you just see the crop yield growth is happening, it has to happen because to keep with the pace of rising population, in 2030, we have to raise our productivity by 35%. This is very much needed. How can we do it? There are a lot of challenges, but it is also possible. One thing is increase in crop productivity. You know, we have to increase our crop productivity. 77% yield increase should happen by 2030, 35. You know, we have to have so much of productivity. Another one is there should be 14% increase to cropping intensity. Right now, our cropping intensity is around 220%. We need to increase our cropping intensity up to 250% in each of our agriculture land. That is the second point that has to be considered. Third point is there should be 9% increased land area under cultivation. Thanks to government of Tamil Nadu initiatives that they are taking lot of steps to convert wastelands into a wealthy lands with agroforestry and other advantageous cropping pattern. So these are the three things which we need to concentrate to keep pace with the increase in productivity requirement for the growing population need. The right side of the panel, if you just see, yield growth is slowed down because of the changing climatic condition. The middle of the curve, if you just see, that is the curve that should happen because of the changing technological advancements and also changing the varietal characters. You know, we have to have a gradual increase over time, but we need to go very faster rate, almost like we have to have more than 70% increase in our productivity by 2050 for the growing population requirement. But but the impact of climate change is definitely slowing down. That's why we have one curve which is coming down from the current condition, that it is pulling down from the growth of the pace. So major reasons are mainly biotic stresses and abiotic stresses. Biotic stresses including pest, disease, weeds and so on. Abiotic stresses including extreme weather events. Because of the change in climatic condition, our temperatures are increasing, our rainfall pattern is getting changed. If you just reconnect, like what has happened in the last agriculture season, there was also flood, there was also drought. So in the initial stage, we had drought-like conditions, and in the final stage of near to harvesting, we had flood-like conditions which really impacted the yield of the crops. So these are all some of the things which we need to take it forward. So coming to the next kind of a thing, climate change is very rapid during the recent years. If you just see, the climate is changing. As Dr. Indumurthy pointed out, no more it is a myth. We all have agreed that the climate is changing and it is real. So it is also impacting every sector, including food security and human health, water availability and overall societal progress. You can just say climate change is actually increasing the temperature. That means it will induce the hydrological cycle to a greater extent. There will be a lot of warming that will take a lot of water into the atmosphere. But the issue is when it is getting condensed, where it is going to fall as a rain. That is what is the greatest concern. Most of the rain is falling within the ocean itself. So the water that is transported, the water vapor that is transported onto the land and coming down as a rainfall is really, really minimum. So that's why we are going to have water crisis as well. Next one is sea level rise. You know, the global sea level rise is accelerated since 2013. Until then, we had a slow pace of increase, but after 2013, ocean warming and ocean acidification resulted in huge impact, and really we are losing potential agricultural areas into the ocean. That is of greater concern. Third one is the temperature rise. You know, 0.08 degrees Celsius per decade is the current temperature increase is happening. That means for every decade, we will have almost 0.8 degrees Celsius over a century, the temperature increase that has happened already. But you know, in the coming years, it is going to double, or even the warming will create more than 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature from the last century. That is of greatest concern. You can just think, like, what is going to happen if there is a slight increase in temperature is happening? Where the temperature increase is going to happen is the greatest concern. Whether it is going to happen on the higher elevated places where there is a snow-clad mountains, or it is going to happen on the both the corners of the earth, that is on the Arctic and Antarctic side. If the warming is happening, what is going to happen? Lot of ice cap melting will happen. Even in the quiz program, people were just showing how the ice caps are melting and the mountains are exposed. These are all some of the concerns we have. Disasters have increased. You know, this disaster last 20 years, they have increased to so much, like 7,348 disasters from 2000 to 2029. Within a short period of time, so much disasters have happened. Atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration, which is high concern to us, it has already crossed 414 ppm. So that is also another important thing. Natural ecosystem that has declined by 47% overall, and 25% of the species are already in the threat of extinction. That is also another concern. Climate change is not uniform for sure. It is going to be advantageous to certain places and disadvantageous to certain places. This is very much shown because of the warming differences that we are seeing. So the next important thing is agriculture also contributes to climate change. We have to be very careful about it because different sectors are contributing to greenhouse gas emission, including agriculture sector. As of now, agriculture sector is contributing something around 16% in the overall GHG emission. If we take that 16%, again, the rice paddies and the soil contributes almost to 40% of the greenhouse gas emission, where it can be very well managed and it can be reduced to a greater extent. So next one is, let's just quickly see what is the impact of climate change. Then I'll go to the measures. The climate change impact is, we are going to lose a lot of fertile soil into our coast. So that is what is the thing. Second thing is, biodiversity loss is also expected to a greater extent. The growing season is going to get shortened. The crop duration is also going to get shortened. And then water requirement is going to increase. One good example I can give, because we have got rice scientists sitting on the table. If we want to grow rice with 1,200 millimeters of water in the current condition, we may require 1,500 millimeters of water to grow rice of the same quantity in another 20 to 30 years of time. That is what is the biggest concern for all of us. And then the pest and diseases. The pests which we were not considered at all, they were considered as a minor pest that is going to become a major pest. We are going to have lot of problems in controlling them. So on the right hand panel, you can see most of the crops, the productivity is expected to decline, and few crops will definitely have an advantageous position. Then, okay, now coming to action. How to identify risks and how to identify adaptation tools. You know, the biggest challenge, as I said, 50% of food gap is going to be there by 2050 with 10 billion people on the earth. Second thing is, 593 million hectare of land gap is going to be there, and 11 gigaton GHG mitigation gap is going to be there. So these things we need to address. So for identification of risk, we have to first identify its location specific. The coastal area will have a different kind of a risk, and inland will have different kind of a risk. High altitude place will have different kind of a risk. So we need to identify what risk is prevailing in that particular location. We have to rank them so that we develop adaptation options. We have to identify opportunities as well, and then select risk management practices. So I've just divided into 4 different thematic areas. First one is climate forecasting. We have to have finer scale prediction. No more we can just do overall prediction. We have to go with finer scale. Village level predictions are required to take climate related actions. Second one is crop weather simulation models are very, very important to understand what practices will work and what practices will not work. Another thing is genetic measures. So the crop diversification is one thing which we all need to work on it, and then we have to have tolerant varieties. One of the panelists is going to talk about the climate resilient varieties. I'm happy to inform that Tamil Nadu Agricultural University is coming out with climate resilient varieties in almost all array of crops which are grown mainly in Tamil Nadu. Then land and water conservation is another important thing, because we are fighting for water with our neighboring
Dr. Geeta,
states.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Could you complete?
Oh, yeah. So we are actually going with a lot of difficulties, and crop management measures are also important. So we need to go with the climate smart agriculture. We have to go with weather smart, water smart, seed and breed smart, nutrient smart, labor smart, carbon smart. And then we have to transfer our risk also, and market and infrastructure smart. I've listed many practices. One of the important thing I would like to touch here, nutrient smart. Now we are coming out with the next generation tolerant kind of nutrients. For example, we are going with the water soluble fertilizers. We are going with the nano fertilizers. Though there are a lot of controversies, these are some of the new development which will definitely resolve some of the environment related factors. Slow release fertilizers, and then all sensor based kind of things are also one of the important thing which we can take it. So this is something which is very new, artificial intelligence application in agriculture. Each and every field we can do the artificial intelligence, including the crop yield prediction, including pest and disease forewarning, weather forewarning, market intelligence, blockchain technology. Everywhere this artificial intelligence can do a greater job. Coming to the robotics, now nobody is ready to go and work in the hot sun. So robotics will be one of the best thing which will do specific and targeted application on weeds, pest and diseases and so on. And soil and crop monitoring, and also disease diagnosis is yet another area where we can go. These are 3 application cases. One is crop health health monitoring. Second thing is AI for weeding. Third one is for harvesting. We are using the image processing technology, and we will be able to come out with lots and lots of innovative ideas in this. So just one more slide to go. What are the challenges in agriculture, like in AI, application in AI? One thing is, because it is in the introductory phase, high cost is one thing which is really worrying us. Lack of experience, because people are just now learning, so there is lack of experience which can be addressed through capacity building. Technological limitations are also available, but silos, working in silos will never work. We have to join hands with the technological universities, and with the domain expertise it can be resolved. Then connectivity issues, resistance to change, slow adoption process, data collection and processing, and private security. So to conclude, leveraging AI for sustainable farming practices for boosting crop yield is the need of the hour, which is to go for a longer way, and AI pivotal role in decision making, more innovative farming. So that is again for more innovative farming in the days to come. This will be ruling in the days to come. Smart agriculture, usage of technologies with IoT, sensor based, everything is going to rule in the days to come. Ultimate goal is increasing the quality and quantity of the crop while optimizing the human labor used. Thank you so much for the great opportunity. Looking forward to have a lot of questions from you.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta. Now I request Dr. Paranivel to bring in his insights on the livestock management and the kind of innovations that are happening, particularly with respect to addressing the problem of climate change. So over to you, sir. Would request you to kindly stick to the time of 10 to 12 minutes, please.
Good morning to one and all. So I am happy to present the climate change and disease surveillance for livestock to audience. So I first of all thanks to the organizers to invite me to give talk on that climate change disease surveillance for livestock. So what are all the ways the disease to be occur due to So, what are the consequences of climate change? Mostly the rise in Earth's surface temperature, change in weather pattern, melting of glaciers at the poles, increase in sea levels, and modified precipitation pattern, either snowfall, rainfall in erratic manner, modified precipitation, and various human activity that also to increase the generation of greenhouse gas, and carbon dioxide emission also from huge amount of fossil fuels, especially coal and oils, and methane and nitrous oxide emanation from the animals as well as the climate. So coming to the Indian scenario, it is nowadays rapid population expansion, economic reform, rapid urbanization, industrial infrastructure development, and environmental degradation, it impact to the climate change. And Indian Meteorological Department recorded temperature increases over the Indian region is almost similar to that global average, and Indian average temperature is increased roughly 0.7% between 1902 to 2018, and it is anticipated to increase by approximately 4.5 degrees centigrade in the year 2100. Over the Gangetic Plain and Western Ghats monsoon rainfall decreased around 6% in between 1915 to 2015. And in central, India, in the heavy rainfall also increased 70% over the same period. And another thing, 1951 to 2006, drought frequency also increased across central India and the southwest coast and the southern peninsula and northeast India. So east coast India, particularly, they suffered a lot due to severe cyclonic storm than west coast. So these are all the effects of climate change. If the climate change occurs, temperature increase, it will affect animal health risks, biodiversity loss, and ultimately it will impact on agriculture and extreme weather events. In addition to that, it will increase the sea level rise and higher level of methane emission, and increase the population of vector population, particularly flies, mosquitoes, and ticks. So climate change, mostly the geographical expansion of vector-borne diseases and the sustainable livestock production to be needed, and researchers urgently needed to face consequences of human and animal climatic mitigation. So what are all the impact of climate change? If there is solar radiation, rainfall, and it will influence on feed and water availability to the animals, and primarily due to increasing temperature and atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration, and precipitation variation, particularly increase in rainfall or increase in snowfall. If the temperature also increase, automatically it will affect livestock production, particularly water availability to the animals, animal production, reproduction, and health. And the temperature, carbon dioxide, and precipitation variation, and it will also affect the forage quantity and quality. And if the increase in temperature and variation in rainfall, automatically more disease occurrence occurs in animals. So impact of climate change mainly on livestock due to increase in carbon dioxide and increase in temperature and precipitation variation. Altogether, it will affect the livestock population. And the effects of climate change in animal health, these two ways it will affect. One is direct and then is indirect. In case of direct effect, heat stress, production and production diseases, reproductive disorders. Heat stress, mainly, it will increase the metabolism, physiology, hormone in immune system, and decrease the feed intake, and finally, it will succumb to different diseases. So if there is a heat stress, it will decrease the production of hormones, and ultimately, it will affect that reproduction and disease pattern to that animals. And the production and reproduction disease also, mostly that estimate significantly monetary loss due to this climate change. 2% of milk production will be reduced, thermal stress, as well as reduced feed conversion ratio and utilization of feeds. And also in case of poultry industry, it will be reduce that egg production and also reproductive performance, mainly reduction in body weight gain and feed intake. And reproductive disorders also, mostly in male animals, the semen quality and sexual libido will be decreased. And in case of females, it will reduce the ovulatory function, and also it will increase that embryonic loss in that animals. In poultry, it will increase that reproductive deficiency, also decrease, and also egg production will be decreased due to interruption of ovulation. So, lot of research they have done is mostly that native breeds are more resistant to climate change than other animals. And they did experimentally different parameters they conducted, and every parameter will be affected due to thermal stress, nutritional stress, combined stress, and multiple stress. So this is the diagram which is showing that ovulation disruption and a change in the consumption rate, everything to be affected to climatic stress condition. In case of indirect effect, mainly disease occurrence, vector-borne diseases, climate change affects pathogen, feed and water availability, climate change, and zoonosis also it will affect. So disease occurrence due to more rainfall, automatically more favorable condition for the ticks, flies, and mosquitoes, then it will produce more zoonotic diseases as well as parasitic diseases. And one of the important viral diseases of cattle, it is a foot and mouth disease. It can be occur mostly during the rainy season, mostly October to March season. Due to more rainfall, so it will be hinder that viral proliferation and also produce more diseases. And also, in addition to that, more heavy rainfall or climatic variation, particularly temperature, humidity, and other environmental condition, it will increase the availability of ticks and flies. They are all major role to transmit that tick-borne diseases to that animals. So one important viral disease which can be transmitted to animals through arthropod vectors, lumpy skin disease, it can produce severe economic loss to that livestock industry. So during the year 2022, 23, and 24 also. So another one important blue tongue virus. This is also one of the important disease. It can also vector-borne disease. These disease also more common during the heavy rainfall season, particularly monsoon season. So this monsoon season is very favorable for the some of the flies, particularly coulicoids. They are the transmitting the disease from one animal to another animal. And climate change also affect pathogens. So extreme weather condition, it will give more favorable condition for some bacteria, particularly E. coli, enterohemorrhagic and cryptosporidium parasitic zoonosis also. So, and it will also affect feed and water availability also possible. And it will also produce a lot of zoonotic. And most of the 80% of animal pathogens are zoonotic. Again, on that 80%, 70% are emerging animal pathogens. So it will be a alarming situation due to that climatic change. So environmental change also affect breeding policy, development, proliferation, and a lot of zoonotic diseases like leishmania, cryptosporidia, giardia, all are mostly transmitted by ticks and flies, mosquitoes. So in this figure, mostly due to increase in temperature and climatic variation, so they can produce airborne, waterborne, and tick-borne diseases to the animals as well as human beings. One of the important disease in animals and human beings, leptospirosis, the disease is very common during the rainy season, because the rainy season only lot of rats will be died. From that, these rats are carriers of infection. From that, if anybody is having bite, cut wound in that leg or feet, automatically they will harbor the infection. That's why this disease is very common during the rainy season. And again, already I mentioned that impact of climate on livestock. Again, impact of livestock on climate change. Even livestock also will produce a lot of methane emission and carbon dioxide and increase in nitrous oxide. These also produce a lot of impact to that environment. So what are the ways we will identify the problem and we will go for further? So we will do that disease surveillance. This is the first line of disease defense. One is early warning system, use climatic data, and also we can forecasting. So already Indian Council of Agriculture, they have given disease forecasting model for FMD. So I think they are planning to control the FMD in that 2030 year. So again, that first line diagnostic capacity, data integration, community engagement, this is very important. Particularly in Euro district, the outbreak of FMD completely controlled due to that 500 farmers, they did a disease surveillance and they go informed to that animal department, completely eradicated in Euro district.
Dr.
So, and, surrounding, so that is strengthening of early warning system, genomic serological software arrangement, community-based software surveillance also necessary. So this is a surveillance strategy we also follow. And again, one thing we will go for one health approach is very important, because the human and the animal, they are interdependent. So both are dependent on environment. If the environment is affected, automatically both are affected due to this. These are all the diseases we have recorded in our Central University Laboratory. It's a bacterial viral diseases. And another thing is some of the diseases are very common. So pasteurellosis, mangemia, clostridium. Zoonotic diseases, particularly the leptospirosis. So this is a future research perspective, particularly in the climate change, either adoption strategy, that is a mitigation strategy, and also amelioration strategy to be followed. So conclusion, One Health management, both animal and human management, they are interdependent. Automatically the environment is good, they will be controlled any climatic change affections. So take some measures, rising temperature, erratic precipitation, extreme weather events, it will affect livestock by reducing feed availability, water quality, overall rainfall. So climate change leads to produce numerous vector-borne disease, particularly blue tongue, hemorrhagic septicemia, and mycotoxicosis, reduced consumption rate, increased embryonic loss, mitigation of methane gas production, particularly adding of tannin, seaweed, oil to remove the methane gas production, and early detection, monitoring of serosurveillance pattern, manure management, and One Health approach. These are all the final thumb. So climate change is a multifaceted challenge. It will need urgent and coordinated action by adopting climate-smart livestock practices, investing disease surveillance, and implementing sustainable mitigation strategies. We safeguard animal health to protect human livelihood and also contribute global environmental sustainability. So now, collaborative effort across scientific discipline, policymakers, stakeholders will be instrumental in building in a resilient livestock sector in the face of climatic change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Paranivel, for a very insightful presentation. Now I would move on to Dr. Jawahar Ali to talk about what he's been working on, particularly from the crop related matters in the International Rice Research Institute. So over to you, sir. About 10 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. I would like to first thank the organizers for inviting me. Without taking much time, I will just jump into the very important issue on climate change. The fundamental is how are we going to secure our food? The food security, or what we call as food insecurity, will be very dramatic in the coming days. If you look at the slide that is on the corner to your red, the more red, it is more insecure. And you see the picture doesn't look good at all. By 2050, we will be in a very bad scenario, especially a country like India, China, which are highly populated, along with the Africa. Now, the major factors for climate change would be the drought, followed by flooding, and then the livestock and the crops would be the most affected by that. Now, what we have got with us is how are we going to proceed? Do we need to develop climate-resilient rice varieties and hybrids across all crops? It's not only for rice, but also the crop management and associated technologies to boost the yield of these improved varieties and hybrids. Especially the hidden hunger elements like zinc and iron need to be biofortified into these varieties at the same time, and conducive policies to make the food available and accessible and utilized, and stability for these food should be there. And this is something, what we did in Erie is that we developed a concept called Green Super Rice. This was a project which led to the development of more than 73 varieties. And we are now incorporating it with iron and zinc into these varieties. That means it requires lesser fertilizers, lesser inputs. At the same time, they give higher outputs on yield, and it can resist drought, salinity, and flooding tolerance. And these climate-resilient materials can be directly released in Asia and Africa. At the same time, we get into the hybrid breeding program. These materials are integrated into the hybrid breeding program, where we are able to create the heterotic pools and eventually identify the most important hybrids that are climate resilient at the same time. And the main focus of these hybrids is we need to have seed producibility of more than 3 tons. Now, if you look at the varieties that were released, almost 73 in East and Southern Africa, about 11, South Asia, 21. And moving further, we need to look at the climate. I think it skipped. So 9 of these varieties have been released in India, and PR 126 is almost occupying 60 to 70% area in Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP. And almost 9 are released in India alone. And these climate resilient rice varieties need to be spread, and it should find its way. Now, we have also combined iron and zinc into these varieties, especially in the nutrient use efficient backgrounds. Also, we have identified low glycemic index rice varieties in the climate resilient backgrounds. So, what are the technologies that we have currently is the healthier and safer rice hybrids, climate resilient hybrids, and direct seeded rice hybrids. And in this process, we have been able to successfully develop drought, salinity, flooding tolerant hybrids, and also the false smut and tungro tolerant hybrids. And by the way of developing direct seeded rice hybrids, low carbon footprint hybrids, and bringing the herbicide tolerance into the hybrid breeding program. Also for the low glycemic index hybrids and arsenic safe rice hybrids. Now, to illustrate the example of the salt tolerant, India's first salt tolerant hybrid, DRR-H5, which was a combined effort with IRI and Indian Institute of Rice Research, has developed a salt tolerant hybrid that can give 42% higher yield than the Czech inbred CSR10. And we have also been able to successfully develop the false smut resistant materials, and this has been shared with the partners. Also, the climate resilient hybrids on one side, we are developed the climate resilient materials, and these are in combination, we are creating the hybrids. Now, the low carbon footprint rice hybrids, that means you need to increase the yield more than 10 tons and reduce the duration by less than 110 days. If we can do that, the per unit day on the methane emission will be dramatically reduced in a significant manner. And to propel this, we have now the AI hybridized, artificial intelligence hybridized platform, which can identify combinations that would give these type of high-yielding hybrids. At the same time, they are releasing less methane. Now, less methane hybrids have been identified already, and also we are promoting the wet direct-seeded hybrids that gives higher yield under direct-seeded in comparison to the direct-seeded. These are some of the hybrids that are emitting less methane directly, and these hybrids can change the game in the coming days. The direct-seeded rice hybrids, we need the nematode resistance, anaerobic germination from deeper soil with less water without flooding, because flooding causes the methane emission in paddy. And we released the Mestizo 89 as the first direct-seeded rice hybrid, which can be used by the farmers. And now, getting into the fundamentals of the methane emission and the nitrous oxide, which are the two major greenhouse gas emissions that emerge, there is the root exudates help in the microbiome, actually the microorganisms near the root zone, that would help the methanogenesis to emit more methane and to restrict the methanotrophs which are on the upper surface that results in the breakdown of the methane. So these understanding of this dynamic relation, we can exploit it to our advantage. Now, the two-line hybridized technology that ERI is promoting is with a low CSP, that is 24 degrees centigrade, it becomes completely sterile. Using this principle, you can make any hybrid combinations with these female parents, and that therefore the heterosis levels increase more than 35%. And the heterosis recovery of these two-line hybrids is higher than 60%, and the milling recovery more than 70%. We recently came out with a super stigma TGMS line, the longest stigma, the female organ which produces the seed in the hybrid program. These super stigma lines can create very good yields of more than 3.5 tons to establish the hybrid seed industry. And therefore, the higher yields can make a game changer in this technology. And to see the illustration of the best hybrids of two-line, we have almost many hybrids that can touch up to 12 tons per hectare at ERI conditions. And it can beat the best checks like Bigante plus a Bayer hybrid with almost 30%, and the Czech inbred up to 43%. And recently we found that the two-line hybrids that we have recently developed even surpasses that level. And this is something we need to look at it, more than 30% heterosis. And this is something which we are looking at, that the two-line hybrids would be a game changer. And some of these hybrids that gives up to 13 tons are looking like this at ERI, and we have released almost 19 hybrids in total, and that the last one defeated the Czech hybrid by 12% in the Philippines, and Mestizo 120 defeated the Czech by 15%. So to sum it up, the future direction that needs to be important is we need to breed more climate-resilient rice inbreds and hybrids. So inbreds against heat, cold, elevated levels of carbon dioxide, because current level is 420 ppm. By next few decades, we'll see the carbon dioxide in the air would be increasing. And we have to design more water use efficient and all the combinations of, including even ozone for that matter. The new TGMS lines we are developing for more heterotic and market-preferred two-line hybrids. And genomic prediction of heterosis is possible, and we are trying to see if we can bring the two-line hybrids using the artificial intelligence to precisely predict which combinations to make. And the two-line technology eventually will become the future, and the gene editing tools to correct some of these would be possible. And the last thing is we need to produce more from less. lesser inputs, lesser resources, because the time, especially in the face of climate change, everything will be upside down. You will not have the climate at your, it will knock your door, and most of the farmers would be in a very difficult situation. So we need to make more out of less. And this is my team at ERI who are behind this. And I like to acknowledge all my staff who are there. And to end, one of the two slides which we are looking at is, this is the proposal we are giving to the Tamil Nadu government. And we are partnering with Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Swaminathan Foundation, and Indian Institute of Rice Research. A 5-year project where we will be developing the market-preferred inbreds and hybrids for Tamil Nadu, deploying climate-resilient, biofortified rice varietal products, and where the capacity building and socioeconomic analysis will be done. And this will be targeting 2 million hectares of the coastal areas as well as the irrigated regions. Some of the key interventions of this technology would be to deploy climate-resilient, biofortified inbreds and hybrid varieties addressing the market needs. Two-line hybridized technology transfer would be there completely, and the direct seeded technology, and also the grain quality of consumer-preferred inbreds and hybrids. Ultra-low GI and low GI less than 55, and ultra-low GI will be less than 35 low glycemic index. With this, I'd like to thank.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jawahar. Thank you so much. So I think now this is the last presentation, after which we'll open it up for an interaction. So over to Dr. Naresh Kumar to talk about the carbon sequestration potential of soils. As I mentioned, soils are very important from a mitigation perspective, but then even if you're looking at agricultural yields, it is extremely important to look at soil health. So over to you, Dr. Naresh Kumar.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, let me thank the organizers for having invited me here to share some of my thoughts. And the assigned topic is basically on how the GHG emissions are coming from Indian agriculture in Tamil Nadu agriculture, and what are the adaptation and mitigation potential. So that's what I will be talking mostly about. This is the outline of my presentation. Quickly, I will go through a couple of slides on each topic. So Indian agriculture emits around 421 million tons of CO2 equivalent GHGs, whereas Tamil Nadu agriculture emits about 13.2 million tons of CO2 equivalent GHGs. Tamil Nadu agriculture has been contributing more in terms of percentage contribution to entire agriculture from Tamil Nadu. How much GHG is being coming is national average is around 53%, whereas it is rice, it contributes around 60%. So there is a scope for betterment here. The second thing, just now we have seen the technologies available to further reduce this. And another important one is 6.8% the increase in rice cultivation. So the other earlier one was on livestock contribution. So these are the major two contributors which can be targeted from Tamil Nadu agriculture sector, food production sector, so that we can come out with a net zero agriculture in Tamil Nadu, which is quite possible. In other sectors, it is doing really well compared to the national scenario. Per capita, I mean, in the sense the per ton food grain production, the CO2 equivalent emission or the GHG emission is around 0.7 tons per every ton of food grain production at the all India level, whereas agriculture food grain production from Tamil Nadu emits only 0.45 tons CO2, because some of the crops are really performing well. So there is a good lead here that we can really improve some of these sectors so that we can further reduce the GHG emission intensity from agricultural productivity in Tamil Nadu. Our own studies have indicated, of course, how the climate change is going to be impacted on agriculture. Major crops such as wheat, rice, particularly irrigated rice, maize, and you are also having the potato. These are the crops which are largely sensitive to climatic stressors, and therefore we may see, without adaptation, losing the productivity in future climates. Uh, Coconut is another major plantation crop in Tamil Nadu as well. So this is also is going to be, it's already under stress right now. It is going to be further stressed in future. This we have told probably in 2006 onwards. I have been monitoring what is happening to east and west coast yields of coconut, and we have seen west coast yields have been increasing ever since, but Tamil Nadu is gradually declining its productivity because of the climatic stresses. So there is a need again to develop some of the stress tolerant varieties there. Coming to impacts on other crops in Tamil Nadu itself, if you see, cotton is going to be impacted more if you do not adapt. There are also other crops, like even you are having the irrigated rice, you are having, say, maize, which is going to be very sensitive. Bajra is another one. So, but if you just look at what is the demand for Indian, agriculture, for food production in coming next another 26 years or so, it has to be increased. All the commodities, you name it, most of the commodities we have to increase anywhere between 1.5 to 2 to 3 times. So let us not just look food production system from only one basket, but we have to see entire food production system as a whole, so that we can really target right now. We are coming out with all the solutions, and eventually we are meeting the demand for the 1.6, 1.7 billion population who are going to come by another 30 years plus. Just I was looking at the data available at the district, which are the districts really doing. At the all India level, some of the crops, districts are really performing well. If you just look at on the top one, some of the crop productivity levels are really good. They are topping at the all India level, average district production systems, if you see. But there exists a lot of yield gap also. The best district which is producing, say for example, food grains, the yield gap is around 1200 to 1300 kg per hectare. Whereas it is rice, it is around 700, 800 kg per hectare. Maize also, still it is doing, is the second highest producer, but still, productivity wise, but still you have a lot of gap. So within Tamil Nadu, if you just look at for different crops, 70 to 80% yield gaps are there. So from the best performing district for that particular crop in Tamil Nadu itself, for that particular year, if you just look at, why don't we target these things, these districts? I am not naming the districts here, but I can always share those data. So there is a lot of scope for targeting and reducing these yield gaps, or create the crop donations, so that you are not producing somewhere which it is not suitable, maybe. Okay. Then adaptation, of course, if you do the adaptation with simple technologies, we can still improve the productivity in all commodities. It can go up to even 60-70%, depending on the baseline yield we are talking about in future climates. So the yield gaps are there in India, and there is a lot of scope as well to improve. But that needs cost involved to the farmer as well. Our own studies indicate that the small and marginal farmers are going to be incurring a lot of adaptation costs. So therefore, we need to come out with the technologies which are really able to produce 1.3 to 1.6 times increase in production in future, which our demand is there by 2050. That is, we will be able to do it. But at the same time, while doing, we have to keep in mind that we have to reduce the GHG emissions. So we propose now that the ecosystem-based adaptation is more important than commodity-based commodity-focused adaptation. That's important, of course, commodity-focused the adaptation is important, but ecosystem-based adaptation, which takes care of everything, including all the natural resources. We talk about soil health getting affected, but this is where we need to target total ecosystem-based adaptation by having the transdisciplinary approach, participatory adaptation development, and then eventually monitoring and evaluation and midterm correction. So it has to be from the governments, which have to come because it requires a lot of convergence among the stakeholders. So I'm not going into all these again detailing about this, but you need to have climate risk analysis, enhance the genetic base. Our food basket needs to be enhanced so that you will have better resilience. And the novel products, there are many which are coming, including the varieties. You are having the livestock-based interventions, AI mention is already made. The new technologies are there, but they themselves do not do job for us. We have to really develop them, monitor them, and fine-tune them so that they will be able to help us in doing a better job.
Dr. Naresh Kumar?
Then I think I'm coming to the skill development is another important one. So when it comes to your net zero mission, you need to reduce the emissions from one side and also on the rice and livestock. These two are the targets. Haridwara is one which can reduce around 18% of methane emission coming because of the enteric fermentation. There's a microbial consortium developed by one of the ICR institutes at Bangalore. So that is one thing which seems to be a game changer, and there are a lot of rice technologies which are coming. So that can be adopted. And mitigation opportunities, this is the last slide of mine. We need to have three basic things. One is we have to prevent, reduce, and sequester. So prevention in agriculture, we are using again a lot of fuel in terms of diesel, sets, or whatever. We can have the biofuels. We can have also the renewable energy sources. The potential is huge. This next generation biofuels are being promoted by Government of India now. I think that there a lot of scope is there using the crop residue which is being burnt. So it is expected to solve both the problems. One is air pollution, another is your climate change GHG emissions. Then we need to reduce. Of course, this everyone understands. We have to increase the use efficiency of all the inputs, including energy. But when it comes to soil carbon sequestration, biochar is one which is having a lot of scope. Actually, 400 million tons of CO2 equivalent, the CO2 emissions or GHG emissions can be offset by biochar. Soil organic carbon is a big concern for all of us. So there must be some effort to improve at least soil organic carbon 0.6 to 1% level. And then there is also now carbon market. A lot of boom is happening, but there are a lot of low-hanging fruits in carbon market. Instead of regenerative to agriculture, which is very difficult to monitor, evaluate, and also implement continuously, it's a huge challenge which already practitioners are facing it. Probably we can go for agroforestry, then biochar is there.
Professor, can I request you to wrap up, please?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience for being very patient. I've been given to understand by the organizers that we are running short of time. So unfortunately, we're not going to be opening up for questions. But then the speakers are all going to be here. Please feel free to reach out to them and get your doubts or clarifications or inputs to them. But as a moderator's prerogative, I'm just going to take less than a minute to kind of quickly bring in my thoughts into this or the key takeaways. One thing we heard very clearly is that there is increased demand for food as the population is growing. There are yield gaps that exist. The productivity levels are likely to decline because of climate change itself. It could be a derailer. So there are multiple challenges. Where there is drought, there could be flood, or there could be both in some places. So we are looking at multiple dual challenges, which basically demands integrated and innovative ways of looking at the problem and also coming up with solutions. So I think that is the key message. If that's not brought in, then we are looking at glare implications on both, on all environment, social as well as economic implications. So which is why I think it's extremely important to look at the system as a whole and then try to bring in the kind of solutions that are extremely important to address the problem. Thank you very much to the organizers for this opportunity, and over to the moderators.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And with that, if I may request our session chair, Dr. Indu K. Murthy, to present our speakers with tokens of our gratitude and appreciation. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists. We started off, if I may request the mementos be brought on stage. We started off this session talking about resilience, and I think we end on a note that it's not really a response anymore. It's actually the key to moving things forward, especially in a sustainable manner. Dr. V. Geeta Lakshmi, thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. N. Paranivel, sir, thank you very much, sir. Dr. Jauhar Ali, thank you for joining us all the way from the Philippines. And Dr. S. Naresh Kumar, thank you, sir. And to present our session chair, if I may request Dr. V. Geeta Lakshmi to do the honors. It was a lovely session and, of course, a fantastic start to day 2 sessions as well. So a round of applause for all our panelists on stage, ladies and gentlemen. So I think with this particular session, we jump right into the topic. Our next session focuses on climate financing, challenges and opportunities.